News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. And there's your closing bell for this Wednesday on Wall Street, where a stronger than anticipated U.S. jobs report spurred a slide in treasuries. Traders paring bets on Federal Reserve rate cuts this year. We'll tell you about all of that just ahead. But first, let's bring you those closing numbers. We do it each day here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 pretty much flat. NASDAQ lost 36 points. The Dow down 67 points. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.17%. The 2-year yield at 3.5%. And Bitcoin now down 1.7%, hovering around $67,000. Traders are adjusting their bets on the Fed's next move after that big surprise from the January jobs report. 130,000 new jobs added in the month, twice as many as economists expected. Claudia Sahm is a former Fed economist, and she's now with New Century Advisors.
We got the best possible outcome today. We knew these revisions were coming, and again, we can talk about what's behind them, but to see the most recent readings, we've got some lift in the payrolls in January. It's just 1 month, but we got some lift, and the unemployment rate ticked down.
It ticked down to 4.3%. Diane Swank is a chief economist at KPMG.
What we're seeing is a record break between the share of profits going to wealth holders versus the amount of going to wages. And I think that's where the bulk of this is. You're seeing the productivity gains accrue to the owners of capital as opposed to workers.
The report also included benchmark revisions to 12 months of jobs numbers through last March. That erased 862,000 jobs, more than expected. The Congressional Budget Office warned the U.S. is on an unsustainable fiscal path, increasing its estimate of deficits for the coming decade by $1.4 trillion because of President Trump's 2025 tax law and immigration policies. The CBO projects the increased revenue from tariffs will reduce deficits by $3 trillion, but that won't be enough to cover the cost of the administration's immigration enforcement actions and the extension of Trump's 2017 tax cuts. Now, on Capitol Hill, Attorney General Pam Bondi was reprimanded by Democratic lawmakers for using the Justice Department to target enemies of President Trump. Bondi was criticized for her record, especially on how she handled the files of the late financier Jeffrey Epstein, including redactions of the so-called Epstein files. Democratic Congressman Jerry Nadler says the files are there, but the Justice Department hasn't done anything about them.
How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating? Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question. No, I'm not going to get in the gutter with these people.
The answer to my question, how many of Epstein's co-conspirators has she indicted, is zero.
Bondi, backed by Republicans on the panel, touted her department's record on enforcement against undocumented immigrants. Columbia University says it admitted a student to its dental school via an irregular process, coinciding with fundraising solicitations by former faculty and alumni to disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. The people still associated with the school who were involved in the fundraising discussions have been removed from administrative and volunteer leadership roles. Messages about the university admission were revealed in those recently released Epstein files. The Pentagon has reportedly told a second aircraft carrier strike group to prepare to deploy to the Middle East as the military gets ready for a potential attack on Iran. The Wall Street Journal reports the president was weighing sending that second carrier to the Middle East if negotiations with Iran fail. That deployment of a second carrier would mark the first time there have been two carriers in that region in nearly a year. President Trump says he's insisted to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during their White House meeting today that negotiations with Iran continue as the U.S. pushes for a nuclear deal with Tehran. In a social media post, Trump called it a very good meeting, but that there was nothing definitive reached. President Trump's energy chief is in Venezuela to meet with the nation's new leader and assess its energy infrastructure. Energy Secretary Chris Wright tells Bloomberg's Anne-Marie Hordern there is more on the agenda.
The agenda is meet the leaders, most importantly. Meet the leaders and meet other humans that are leading the businesses here in Caracas and in Venezuela. Build personal relationships and connections so we can communicate better.
Those meetings going on right now. Energy Secretary Chris Wright speaking with Bloomberg's Anne-Marie Hordern in Venezuela. President Trump is expected to issue an executive order that could aid the coal industry by providing funds to recommission and upgrade coal plants. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum says the U.S. is facing an AI arms race with China.
We need more power. We need energy addition. The way to have energy addition is to stop stop getting rid of the stuff that already works. And of course, that includes our fossil fuel baseload. In the PJM market, 70% of the power was coming from hydrocarbons, during those storms. I mean, America and the world is dependent on it, and is going to be in the long future.
Interior Secretary Doug Burgum on Bloomberg surveillance. Actor James Van Der Beek has died. He was best known as Dawson on Dawson's Creek. Van Der Beek was in treatment for stage 3 colorectal cancer. James Van Der Beek was 48 years old. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. This is Bloomberg.